Hi, I'm Jelle.
Hi, I'm Gerben. Hi Jelle. So today you want to share something about GitHub Copilot.
I do, yeah. So I'm assuming that everybody knows, but because it's been a big thing. But are you using it?
No, not using it. I do use ChatGPT for some code snippets, but not Copilot as a plugin into Visual Studio or Code.
All right, yeah. So you've spoiled it.
So I need to learn.
Yeah. Well, that is the point of today. So yeah, GitHub Copilot is basically an extension for several IDEs, which is AI powered, and it will try to help developers be more productive and be more efficient. It will claim that it will help you write better code, and I think it's been around now for at least half a year, probably longer. Well, I was going to ask you about your opinions, but that's interesting. I think maybe I think maybe half of developers have tried using at least AI powered pair programming. Let's call it that. And opinions are very mixed. So there's people that are crying out, this is the end of programming as we know it, for various reasons. And there are people saying, I will never code without my Copilot again. So I thought it would be a good idea today to dive into into our opinion, because that's what you're going to get, but at least to dive into what actually is happening or looking towards. So,
and in general, what's your opinion? In a few words.
So we're starting off with the opinions, and then we'll slide in somewhere.
And then go into more details.
I think it's like cloud development. So at the moment, it has its issues, but it's clearly there's something there. If you're not going to adjust to it now, and you're not going to look into it now, and you're a slow learner, then you're going to have trouble adapting with all the people that are jumping on board. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, I really like, for instance, ChatGPT for small scripts. So, as you know, I do a lot of security, and if you want to have a small POC of something, then it's really well fit. But maybe you have more like an opinion in a bigger development setting, for bigger projects.
Yes, but and then it's less positive. So
okay, then that's good to know.
So interesting. All right, so I've looked into my Git history, and I found a very, very old repository that I made for one of the previous beta talks, which is Azure Batch. Parallelization, we had trouble with that word last time as well.
Still
it's still hard. I'll ask ChatGPT how to pronounce it. But it's a repository that has some code that I wrote myself without any assistance, even no human assistance. And that's how I did it. I just started looking, how should I go about this? That's how it works. I looked at some examples. I had some experience, and I coded how I thought it should be done. And in a twist that I would never advise to actual production work, I did not have let anyone review this. However, when I put it up on GitHub, I did get some comments from people. That's fine. All right, so I have added the GitHub Copilot extension, and I've even added the GitHub Copilot extension for chat. So we are looking at a beautiful class, and there's GitHub Copilot can do a lot of stuff for you, but just for a small demo, let's say
there are two different features. One looks into your code, and the other one is more like the ChatGPT interface where you can.
Yeah, I'll go into this a bit deeper later, but yes, GitHub Copilot basically allows you to do stuff like this, where you're like generates a method, my method that counts to 10. It wants me to go higher, and then it will. Now it's here. You see one of the problems. It thinks that I want to write more comments, which is I'll try that. But Yeah, this is not what I want, which is why you need to be more specific. But especially with the chat, I can do stuff like ask Copilot, what does this do? Okay. And then you see that this is more of the chat language model functionality.
Then fully integrate into your IDE.
And I can ask it inline, and it will tell me everything. That's I can ask it about a class. I can even do stuff in here in this side view as well. There's some actual commands. So if I type in help, it will tell me a few of the features that I have with Copilot chat.
I can use for chat.
Basically, that's all there is to it. It's like any Copilot. It integrates with a program that you're working with and tries to empower you. As you can see, the demo was quite clear. It doesn't empower you perfectly, and also you need to know what you're doing. So if I try to steer the Copilot in the wrong way, I may not get results. If I don't know how to activate my Copilot well, I may get wrong results.
But isn't there something like a shortcut key or something to let it generate code because you did a command and then it starts to comment again?
Yes, so there's a lot of shortcuts and stuff. It integrates with Visual Studio. It integrates with Visual Studio Code as well. So both works. It integrates with more.
And you have the same experience. Do you miss something out? Using one or the other?
No, it's subtly different. Subtly different.
And when you set it up, how does it connect?
Great question. So setting it up, I am actually using a Copilot for Business license. So Betabit has set up Copilots for all its employees. We have seats, and we can assign employees to seats. And if I'm assigned a seat, I can activate using extensions, and it will pop up a activation. But you can also buy your own individual license. And the chat functionality is currently in beta, and you have to apply for it. But it's a really easy process. It's basically one step more than just adding an extension to Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code.
All right. We have all kinds of other extensions that we need to add connection details or connect to Azure or something. So that's then just this step.
Yes. So I would like to have everyone come on board. So what does it do? So the important thing about GitHub Copilot is that it has contextual awareness. Because the question I get a lot is, basically this is just Intellisense, right? And the answer to that is yes, basically, but also no, and that's because of this. It has contextual awareness, which means it will look at your code and it will try to decide what context it will send as a prompt to generate a correct response. So the fact that I was in a storage service class, I believe, and I said tried to generate a method that will count to 10, the context is useless, so I'm not using it right.
You're not using the context.
But if I would have asked it to generate a method to delete some output containers, maybe then it would have provided me with some more useful methods.
And how bounded is that context? Is that solution bounded, project bounded?
It depends. You can configure this, but it's not very wide. So it's as with most language models, it's token based, and there's a hard cap for that. However, if you can hard command it to include certain files in its context, you can try to steer it. Basically, it is like having an actual pair programmer. If you just show it the one class, it can only advise you and code with you to a certain level. If you tell the Copilot to look at this, and these classes, however, it will look at the classes that are dependencies. So if you don't instruct it, it will try to use logical code to create a context. But the context is, it is not as large as I would like, which means that in the future it will be.
Yeah, it will get larger. Yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
because it's basically just a cost and token strategy. So another cool feature is my English is, as you can hear, almost flawless. However, maybe I would like to ask some questions in Dutch. That'll work. Okay. If I ask Copilot a question in Dutch, I would have to flip over backwards to explain some programming features, but it would answer me.
It will answer, yeah.
If it's Spanish, etc., it's all supported. So that's really cool. It's great for refactoring. Just you give it the context. It doesn't need to know anymore. And this is what you have. Make it better. And code completion is just I have this. Oh, you probably want to write this. Okay, so that's cool. But it can also generate, as I showed you, from scratch. And I think it's especially powerful in generating basic unit tests. Because
how is your experience with that? Because I think that could provide a very... Can you also do it the other way around? Test and then code?
That's a great question. No. No, I think it's not very good at that. Okay. Because it will... I think it will try and it will come somewhere close. But if you're truly test-driven, you would still describe the method. But that also works better, I think, because you could. It is an interesting one. I'll try that later. But it's not great at it, at least that I know. But that's true for a lot of these things. So it generates code based on your prompt. So basically you ask it something or you describe what you want and it will generate an entire block of code. And especially chat is really good at asking the question, what does this do? Are there any potential problems? How would I go about fixing those problems? Basically asking questions and then performing a quality analysis on your code.
Could it also help with finding security vulnerabilities?
It should. And in practice, I think the analysis is actually quite good at detecting potential security issues. However, and we'll come back to this later, the code generation feature is also very good at introducing security issues.
Okay, nice.
And finally, it's also, not finally, but it's really good at, maybe I have a Visual Basic .NET application, and for some reason I want that in C#. Or maybe I have an F# application and I want to go to C# and anger a lot of people. That's fine. Okay. This is where Copilot really shines, but it's a lot of manual work because you'll need to do it class by class by class. And it won't, if the context is not big enough, it will start to maybe interpret things a bit differently. However, it's still a lot faster than doing it manually. And my favorite, it does regular expressions, and I'm terrible at regular expressions, and it will generate those really quickly. Thank you. I haven't found much errors in those. I am not the best at finding errors in regular expressions though, so don't take my word on it, but this is, I'm very happy with this.
Nice.
So for chat, we're looking at the interactive side of things, but basically it's the same functionality. So it can explain code, it can try to fix bugs. You can ask it to increase in performance, or you can basically use it as a sort of pair programmer or a Stack Overflow that you can just immediately ask the question and it will go. So this is based on OpenAI, which is in league with Microsoft. So it's all in the Microsoft family, but it's not the only coding Copilot on the market. So there's a lot of alternatives like Tab9 and Deepcode and Tabby, which I'll show that.
And they also integrate with the IDE. And on which models are they based?
So Codex actually.
Okay.
For GitHub Copilot, and for the others, I don't know by heart, but the sites will tell us. So if I go to tab 9, we'll see, there we go. Here we go. Yes, I don't want to translate, thank you. This is the bad side of AI.
Can immediately a form.
Yeah, we get a form, and there's actually some documentation, so I should never click the first link because it's sponsored. I should know better by now. So here we go in with tab 9. You can see that it is basically something very, very similar as GitHub Copilot, but it works in different contexts. It has some advantages, some disadvantages. Usually the big differentiator is the different ecosystem where it shines.
Okay.
So GitHub Copilot, of course, shines
integrated
in the .NET family and like the front end families. So if we look at let's say Tabby, because that's actually
a cat,
which is fair. Thanks. This is open source, which I know we think that's important. But that in the end, it's the same trick, but it might integrate differently. It might not integrate at all. It might shine in areas where GitHub Copilot has a lot more trouble. But it has, I think, the most important thing to take away is they all share a lot of the same problems.
Okay.
And of course, also a lot of the same benefits.
Positive sides.
So really cool. There's a lot, and I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot more alternatives, and then we'll get a little bit of a coding Copilot war, and then we'll balance out. I'm pretty sure that Copilot is GitHub Copilot is going to be around.
Yeah, it will.
Because it's already the big one. So, all right, I want to do a bit of a quiz with you. I know I haven't told you that I want to do that, but let's hear your opinion.
Okay.
GitHub Copilot or coding Copilots will replace developers?
No. I think you still need developers at least for the initial ID, and then you can fill in the details with a Copilot. So I think it can work hand in hand.
Yeah, so there's no right or wrong in this quiz, which is a bit boring.
But no, I think it will not replace.
No, so I think you're right. It's false. I think we're not going to replace developers, at least not in the coming X years, X decennia, X lifetimes. Because for example, when we talk about low code, we're still talking about low code developers, not low code managers or something. So no, this is, it's not going to replace developers. However, as I said at the start, I think it's really important that developers learn what Copilots can and cannot do, and learn how to work well with Copilots, because otherwise, I think we call it an AI-assisted developer will have more options and will be more flexible if they're using it right. All right, next question. Well, that's not a question. Next statement. Copilot will make developing boring.
I think AI-assisted coding will take the boring part out of coding. So the moments that I used ChatGPT, for instance, I could ask stuff that I normally would have to ask Google and put all things together, and at least me it helped to inspire, not to directly write code, but also to inspire and see how I could explain stuff. And so no, I think it will eventually even take out the boring stuff out of.
Yeah, that's my opinion as well, which is making this really boring. So I'll pretend I have another opinion next time. But no, yeah, I think for now at least the most boring parts of developing are going to be taken away. But I will note that these are the parts that I found interesting or manageable when I was learning to code. These were the parts where I was like, oh, I can wrap my head around this. I just need to do something sequentially, easy, predictable. I don't have to think about generics or anything. I can just, it needs to do this, then this, then this. I can write that. And a Copilot can also write that. That's where they shine. You just ask it to do it, it will generate it. So then my next question is, okay, so learning to code in a Copilot environment, what's the first step you're gonna take? It's a really interesting one.
But I think that may pose, I don't know if you have that as a question, but using it as a junior, I think that could be troublesome, because you do not really yet know what kind of patterns you need to use.
True.
So
no, yeah, I do not have that as a statement, but that's where I wanted to end. So shh.
Sorry.
All right, Copilot saves time. That's a really nice one. Do you think that's true or false? Of course, GitHub has done its own research.
Yes, I think initially what I experienced initially in setup, it could save time, but the things that you demonstrate, if you have to really work with it and tune it, the question is if it then could save time. But I think initially it saves as much time as you have those templates and boilerplate codes and everything. So yeah, I think if you do a research ballpark figure, 10, 15%, I don't know.
All right, so we asked many of our colleagues, and our colleagues gave us numbers like, I think I'm maybe 25% faster.
Okay.
GitHub Copilot did some research. They found numbers up to, I think, 80%.
Okay.
Good for you, but not good for you. If this saves 80% of your time, I'm not jealous of your job. But I think it will save time, and it will start saving more and more time, but it has a little bit of a, well, it's not a big learning curve, but it has a bit of a learning curve because you need to integrate it into your workflow. I've had a lot of times where I started to write a unit test, and when I reached the assertion phase, I was like, I could have generated this. I'm done. And also, the big one, it will save time coding, but it won't save time in all the other steps of software development, or maybe testing. Maybe a bit of analysis as well, because AI can type, but how many hours in the day are you actually sitting down writing code? I think some people do that maybe 6 hours, and that would be a lot. And I mainly do architecture work now, so yeah, if I write code at all, I'm very proud of myself. I can now claim to write lots of lines of code, but still, it can help everyone, but it's just one of the co-pilots. Yeah. I don't believe 80% numbers, and I think 25% is only if you spend almost your entire day coding regular, sometimes challenging code. And if you have really, really boring scripting work, then I think maybe then we reach those numbers.
Or refactoring PBIs or something like that. Where you,
yeah, well, I think for code reviews it's really interesting because because you can review your own code because it's different input. I would actually Copilot delivers quality code.
Yeah, I think time needs to. I think you need to really look at the code. Why? Because the model is based on everything that's there on the internet, and what's the quality of that, and who is assessing that quality.
I think I've heard every developer ever say, well, it looks okay, but it's not my code. So the code on the internet is worse than your own code. Every developer will agree. So I think, indeed, yes, time will tell. There's a lot of discussion. Well, if it will deliver code almost as good as yours, then it's terrible. If it will deliver code around as good as yours, then it's probably not that useful. It will need to deliver increased quality, especially because because we're humans, and if something automatically pops up, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah, but I'm really curious because the code you write really depends on how you think and your thinking process. Yeah. So if you specify your thinking process to the prompt, so the code will align with that. It will never be better than what you can think of.
If you have a flaw in your thinking at the start, you're going to introduce that flaw across the entire thing. If you steer it in a direction that is not the correct direction, it will not re-steer back. It will not challenge you on your idea. And also, and this is one where I'm like, oh, this is going to be a big one. There's a lot of rumors about there's licensed code popping up in our generated code. And as I said, this code has security leaks, and I would be very amazed if the generated code adheres to privacy laws. So.
Yeah, and the other way around. What about the privacy of your own code? I mean, you're sending everything.
So that's a great one. I will come back to that one because that's a very good one. Final statement: Copilots are nothing more than improved Intellisense.
Yeah, it is improved Intellisense, but. I think it's improved upon Intellisense. So
I love Intellisense. I think that's great. So
but it adds context. It also adds that now you can input things in natural language instead of. I mean, we write code not for ourselves but for a machine to interpret it, right? So, but now we can write it in our own language, and then it gets a translation to a language that.
Yes, there will be a time when programmers will.
Or not even see the language that's actually behind.
Yeah. So
And optimizing.
I must admit I'm not very good at machine code writing. So this is
No, but that's why you want to do
just another step
Copilots. They
further,
can do
right?
it better.
All right, so we mentioned this, but so there's data concerns. I work for a company, and they have code and data, and it's very precious to them, and they don't want anyone else to ever see it. So there's 2 licenses for Copilot. For GitHub Copilot, you can buy an individual one and a business one. So there's a few differences. The individual one is just for you. The business one has seats. Counterintuitively, maybe the individual one is actually cheaper per person. So if you want to save a lot of money as a company, you can just buy everyone an individual one. However, what the business one, I think besides the configurability, where you can assign seats and everything, and you can do company-wide settings, the big one is the business license says, okay, we will not share or store this data. And the individual one, I think it goes as far as...
I mean,
it will go over. It will go.
Some retention
will
time.
Be sent.
Yeah.
And then,
okay. It will be sent over.
Yeah, but they won't store it. I think.
But sometimes you need like prompt context, right? So you need several prompts to build up context.
Yeah. So, and then they just send it all in one go.
Okay.
I think. Let's see. Looking at it, this is billing. But if we're looking at I need to go to a different website because it's really hard. GitHub Copilot business individual, and we'll look around. So here you'll find stuff about privacy concerns, user engagement data, prompts, and how data is shared. So for business, they're like, no. Yeah, we'll try to do everything nicely, but for the individual, they'll say, we need to work, so we need to increase our models. If you're using individual, you'll pay less, but we will share, we'll store
use it, for
this data. We're not going to use it for commercials or anything yet, but it is, there is some retention there, which makes sense from like almost every perspective that you can think of, but for most companies I think that would be a deal breaker. So I'm glad that we have those 2 licenses, but it's really important that you I think even before you start trying out with anything resembling business code, you need to look into
this
what kind of license model you're using.
Yeah.
Well, and as I mentioned, we also have the potential for security leaks and the problem with license code. So, yeah, it's not flawless. So I think I'm underselling it by now. But it is. There's a lot of power here, and I think, as I said at the start, thank you for that. We are just climbing the hill of potential. I would jump on that hill now. That's the phrase now. Because GitHub Copilot has announced that they're going to be adding more. So GitHub Copilot X, that's a term that's been thrown around a lot, which is not like the 9th sequel to GitHub Copilot. It's also not owned by Elon Musk. It's also not just
yet.
Thanks. It's also not just the next GitHub Copilot. Basically, what they intend to do is, like with chat, they want to add new features. And that's where the X enters. It's a variable.
Okay.
So we have GitHub Copilot Chat. It's not an upcoming product offering. We have for GitHub Copilot for pull requests.
So they have it in your review process.
GitHub Copilot Docs, because I love that I'm doing more architecture work now, but documentation has started to become a thing. But also GitHub Copilot CLI. Whew. Suddenly I would be cool in the CLI, which is my main flaw. I think that's interesting, and also it will help separate what you want to and don't want to use AI for. So basically we have a lot of potential and a few concerns, and I think the main concern, as with security, is that people are going to be the weak link, because it's still people behind the Copilot. And it's a copilot, not a pilot. So we have an automation bias. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So if I do something manually, then I will think about it because I'm doing it manually. But if something is done for me automatically, I'm not going to pay that much attention to the outcome. If I have done it manually, I will pay attention to all the steps in between. And I've done it myself. I don't trust my own work. I'm going to look at that outcome and go like, that's probably, I've probably forgotten something. But if a computer just Copilot generates code for me, I'm like, phew, it's been generated.
It should be okay.
The internet consensus, this is going to be fine. Next.
Does it run? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it compiles. Oh, that's perfect. That's an automation bias. And we also have an anchoring bias. So even if we're very critical, the first suggestion or generation that's going to be created, that's going to fixate your mind on how this problem should be tackled. We have that with manual work as well. If I write all my own code, I'm going to go into a direction. I'll be like, so probably this way, right? But I'll get stuck, maybe. Copilot doesn't get stuck. So it will generate something, and you'll be like, that's not it. But you're
already anchored to
the possibility of thinking what else is going to be severely limited. And finally, we mentioned this. Copilot. So I think the best feature for Copilot to adopt now would be, that's a bad idea. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
It will always be happy. Perfect. It will always be nice. It will always say, yes, I will do this for you.
Yes, it won't say, okay, you should not use regular expressions for this. You're thinking completely about this the wrong way. Maybe try this approach. But even if it doesn't have an alternative, just saying this is a terrible idea, don't do it.
Think something else. Yeah.
Other developers tell me this all the time, and I'm happy for that, because that's great, because you learn, and Copilot will take your terrible idea and try to optimize that terrible idea to the best it can. So push back. I think they should introduce it, because this is possible, but it's not there, right? And of course, as with all language models, it's stuck in the past. Even if it's been trained up to and including now, the amount of data from the further in the past is going to be more. So there's more training data from 2015 than there's going to be from 2023 currently. So there is a bias to older stuff, which could be a problem. And I think that buys into, in the end, what is the most costly thing that we as software developers create? It's not the development. It's the maintaining of the developed code or the developed software. You'll need to maintain it. And I think that Copilot is not great at maintaining currently. Also, developers are not great at it, but the coding Copilot
could help with that.
Well, it can help fix some bugs, but that's it. We're generating a lot of code, and we're generating that in a way that we maybe don't even understand what kind of Frankensteinian creation we've made. It's going to be interesting to see whether development costs are going down because we're going about it a lot quicker.
Or up because we need more maintenance. Yeah.
Yes, very good. Yeah, so basically that's my discussion. That's what I think. I have been underselling it a bit because in the end I'm really enthusiastic about this, and I think every developer should jump on. But I think the reason that I thought this was really important to deliver is because you need to know what you're getting into and why and how to use it. So I would say practice, 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 and try to find the voices that are telling you not to do it, see whether they have a point, and then continue doing it as long as you think it's necessary.
Okay. Yeah, very nice. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.